Good morning. This is the Board of County Commissioners agenda setting. This is a regular meeting. It is Tuesday, October 17th, 2023. It is 9:21 a.m. The session is set to go until 12:15. This is a hybrid meeting. We're at 3000 Pacific Avenue, room 110. For public virtual attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board, joining you via Zoom, and will be in the boardroom shortly. Vice Chair Ty Menser is in the boardroom, as well as Commissioner Gary Edwards. We have interim County Manager Robin Campbell, as well as Assistant County Manager Rob Gelder. And this is our regular agenda setting, and we will start off with homeless strategies update.
Thank you, Commissioner. Keely is unavailable this morning, and Tom is as well. So I've not heard back from David. So I think that we will move this item to next week.
Okay, so then I guess we'll move right on.
I'm sorry, 2 weeks. Next week will be in budget.
Okay, so we'll move this item to 2 weeks. Are there any questions that commissioners need to ask Keely or Tom? That way they're prepared when they come in.
No, ma'am.
No.
Okay, so then
Commissioner,
we will move on. Oh, sorry, Rob, go ahead.
no, I just wanted to let you know you were muted for a second.
Yeah, it just, I flipped the screen and it muted me. I apologize. Okay, so next we will be moving on to Habitat Conservation Plan update.
Great. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Joshua Cummings, the Director of Community Planning and Economic Development, filling in for Brett Burris, the Development Services Manager. He has a hearing this morning. So per the board's request, the CPED Development Services team has put together this research, this non-recoverable research that has been done on the HCP process thus far. And just going over the numbers real quick. So to date, we have received 123 applications for the Habitat Conservation Plan review. And out of that 123, 99 have been completed and 20 are still in review. The board had asked, I think Commissioner Edwards in particular had asked what's the total fees that have been collected or pending. The total fees thus far are about $763,000. But a big portion of that is $540,000 coming from a large subdivision. And taking us all the way back to 2018, when that Board of County Commissioners directed me and CPED to work with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the chair at the time relayed that the goal would be for us to serve the mom and pops and for the folks that are impacting more land, that they pay more. And so this is actually sussing out the way that the board had directed back then. And that 540,000 is essentially an 80-acre project with 40 acres of habitat being impacted. So that's a big bucket of the mitigation process. You can see that that's how that total gets up to 763,000. I'd also say that that was that large subdivision was a big win in terms of process. We had worked with them in the final platting before we had an HCP, but made it a condition of their permit. So when you talk about how come we don't move things faster and time is money, this is actually one of those shining examples of ensuring that we were concurrent in our review. So good story on that one. So also, go ahead.
Can I ask ask for a clarifying question? So when it comes to the large subdivision, that means that as they pull permits for each one of the subsequent homes, it's already taken care of.
That's right. That's exactly right. Up front loaded, so when it's the land use approval is part of the HCP review, so the building should be able to proceed at that time. Great.
Josh, what about those 4 that fell away, like 123 apps, 99 completed, 20 still in review, and that leaves 4?
The canceled or withdrawn applications? Is that what you're looking at there? And
Oh, I'm not looking at anything, I'm listening to you.
yep, so there's 4 that were canceled or withdrawn.
Okay.
So that's the applicant saying that they didn't want to participate any longer.
Do you know why did they just, interest is too high, or what happened? You know, anything, the fee was gonna be too much?
We could do that research as well.
No, I don't know.
I don't know off the top of my head. But also, people all sorts of.
Having this all drawn up like that, this list is, this is handy.
Where'd you get that list?
Is in our packet there.
Yeah.
Should have been on your
It's
spot.
a good one also,
Ooh, good catch.
just so you can see it. I think we asked for that a couple weeks ago or something. That is helpful.
Yeah, good work to Brett and Vince and his team and their team. And then Commissioner Mejia had asked applications by service area. And so we were able to work through that. It's not exact, it doesn't line up exactly because some properties have multiple territory, multiple habitat. And we use the one that has the bigger habitat as the classification. But in general terms, the Yelm Pocket Gopher South has 33, so that's the most applications that we've seen come in. The Yelm Pocket Gopher North has 27, that's the second most. Yelm Pocket Gopher East, 16. Olympia Pocket Gopher, 11. And the Tenino Pocket Gopher, 8. And just as a refresh, we classify the different service areas per U.S. Fish direction by the subspecies of the Mazama Pocket Gopher. So 33, 27, 16, 11, 8, broken out in that wave through those different service areas is how the applications are coming in. So we're seeing more in South County this time. So it's working. People said we couldn't get it done, but we did. And so thank you to the direction of the Board of County Commissioners in partnership. Again, that big number, 123 received to date and 99 approved or completed.
And to piggyback on that, the staff has been working on developing some correspondence for the board's signature to go to the Port of Olympia, really to extend that a communication is sort of an invitation, right, for potential more collaboration and partnership as they move forward. So just as a
Yeah, well, maybe I'll piggyback on the piggybacking.
Sure.
So Assistant County Manager brings up a good point. Also back in 2018, the Board of County Commissioners at that time made a decision for our habitat conservation plan to be solidly for the county and the urban growth area. And the cities at that time did not participate in our HCP. But the board said, when we get an HCP, please ensure that we partner with those other jurisdictions. So now we have an HCP. At the beginning of this year, we reached out to both the Port of Olympia and the City of Tumwater, who we know are working through this process. And that letter that the Assistant County Managers is in fulfillment of that initial direction from the Board of County Commissioners in 2018 to ensure partnership and collaboration with our other jurisdictions. So I think, again, another success in progress, but thank you for highlighting that. Appreciate that. Anything else, Commissioners?
Good job, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Josh. Okay, next is the review of the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for a meeting of October 17th, 2023. So I will pass this on to Vice Chair Ty Menser if he can assist me in going through this agenda, please.
Absolutely. All right.
Thank you, sir.
This afternoon's meeting will be called to order at 2 p.m. and we will have Pledge of Allegiance to be led by me and consideration of the approval of the agenda. Presentation from Emergency Services follows. Flood Awareness Week proclamation. Ben Miller Todd, Emergency Services Director, is listed out as our lead on this item.
And so Kyle is here to assist this morning. Ben is lecturing at a King County Resuscitation Academy. There's not a phrase that you say every day, but he's busy doing that. So if there are any questions, Kyle is here to answer.
Any questions from the board on Flood Awareness Week proclamation?
No,
I see there's a draft attached to our schedule.
and it's being redone, I think, so.
It's being-
Kyle, will there be guests this afternoon?
All of the emergency management staff will be in attendance.
Great.
All right, thank you, Kyle. We'll then have opportunity for the public to address the board. We'll have a county manager's update. Anything you intend to address there, interim county manager?
Nothing this afternoon, thank you.
Okay. Then we have a consent agenda that includes items 3A through 3D. 3A is an auditor item, approval of the voucher list.
Yes, item A is the board's approval of payments made during the week of October 2nd for a combined total of $2.3 million, just under that. And this is on consent because there are no atrium tenant improvements on the voucher list.
Thank you.
Questions,
Thank you.
Commissioner
No,
Edwards?
no questions, thank you.
Okay, no questions there. We'll go to 3B. It's a commissioner's item, Thurston County Agricultural Advisory Committee bylaw amendment.
As the board will recall, as part of the review of various boards and commissions, given the transition to a board of 5, we've been updating many things, and this was one that came onto the work plan to really adopt and make sure there was better alignment with the January 2023 adopted Resident Advisory Boards and Commissions Handbook, and basically updating the bylaws with 4 key changes, extending the term of length from 2 to 4 years, just to help facilitate that churn of appointments, election of officers no longer being by secret ballot, and the bylaws would be approved by the Board of County Commissioners, and adjusting the quorum to 50% of the appointed members.
Commissioner Mejia, questions?
No, sir, no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
No questions.
Okay, very good. I don't have any either. Item C is a treasurer item, authorizing the sale of tax title property via private negotiation to Linton Wildrick. We have our county treasurer, Jeff Gavin. Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning. So this is the sale of a tax title parcel. The county has had this interest since 1999. It is 0.08 of an acre, and the sale price is $2,000. So you have a map in your packet on the desk in front of you.
Okay, I have 2 maps. We're gonna
There-
have 2
there are
items.
2
Oh, is there another one?
parcels
Okay,
today.
got it. So this one is the skinnier, long skinny one, or
It's
the,
the one, yeah, it's the one on
Driveway.
Rural Road.
got it, okay. Commissioner Edwards, questions?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Mejia, anything there? We reviewed this one last week, I believe.
Yep, same two
Okay,
last
hearing nothing, we'll go to item 3D, which is another tax title property.
Yes, this,
Negotiation.
thank you. This parcel has been in the care of the county since 1955. It is being purchased by the owner of the only lot adjacent to the parcel. It is 0.1 of an acre, and the purchase price is $3,500.
Questions, board?
No questions. I do have a comment.
Go ahead, sir.
I had a chance to talk with the treasurer about these type of issues that continue to show up on our agenda. And I asked if he had the authority as a fellow elected official accountable to the voters in Thurston County, if he had the authority to do this without us rubber stamping his authority. And he said, yes, he did, but sometime back, there'd been some arrangement made that he'd bring this in front of the.
Yeah, I do need to bring it to you
Yes,
so that you're aware of it.
Oh, okay,
by state law,
Right.
only the Board of County Commissioners
Oh,
can
okay.
dispose of county-owned properties.
Yep.
So
Well,
it must come
I
to
was
you
just
for
trying to make it
approval.
easier on my seatmates if something was.
After our meeting, I went back and reread the ordinance and I was gonna call you later because I was in a meeting first thing this morning and didn't have a chance to. I
Okay.
apologize for that.
I'm sorry about that too. Just, anyway, I have no questions. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Seems like we're good to
Thank
go.
you.
And keep up the good work, please, for the citizens of Thurston County.
I'm working on it.
You're doing great.
Thank you.
I don't want these trees growing up anywhere around where they'll fall over.
It's better to sell it and get money instead of having to
That's
pay
right.
so much for
And,
the
Jeff's
trees.
doing a great job, by the way.
Yes, he is.
Right, next up is 4A, Central Services, Resolution and Call for Sealed Bids for Voter Registration Center Project 25631. And Rick Thomas is here.
Yes, but I'll start it off. So this item is a call for sealed bids for the construction work at Mottman. This is for our voter registration center, which the board has had many meetings on. The fund sources to pay for this project are ARPA lost revenue, interest on the ARPA funds, rent that we're collecting from current tenants at Mottman, and money from the building reserves. The construction costs are estimated to be $2 million, and we are able to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Edwards.
Where this says, move to approve the resolution and call for sealed bids. The resolution is calling for sealed bids, is that what it is?
Resolution allows for the project.
To put it out to
Yep,
bid?
to put
Okay,
it out to bid.
thank you.
Commissioner Mejia, any questions?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, I don't have any either. Thanks, Rick. You are, okay, here you are again, item 4B. Don't go anywhere. Asset management software.
This item is purchase of software that will assist with the development and maintenance of county-owned facilities. This is in part to develop an inventory of the assets that belong to the county and begin to develop a space needs and maintenance plan, a long-term plan. Of the cost, the $116,000, approximately 98,000 of that is for, it's one time to develop the plan and put the information into the new system. This is a sole source. It has been reviewed by our internal auditor and approved as a sole source. And it is an additional module to software that we currently own. So the balance of the 116,000 is the ongoing maintenance for the entire system, the regular licensing and maintenance costs of the system.
All right, can I get some clarification
Yeah,
on that?
please.
The 98,000 is not part of the 115?
It is part of the 115.
Okay.
The 115, if you break it into two parts, 98,000 is for the one-time costs, and then 18,000 for ongoing,
Okay.
just the regular licensing costs, and that's for the entire system.
Did we have to buy any actual physical equipment, or are we just buying licensing and such?
It's licensing and the ability to use the software on that ongoing.
Sounds like it's a necessity, cost of
is.
doing business.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Mejia.
No questions for me, thank you.
Didn't we have something in our budget presentation, a discussion about this asset management issue? Was it FTEs connected to it, or?
So the, what you heard about in the budget development was from Public Works. Both Central Services and Public Works are developing asset management plans. Central Services for county-owned facilities and buildings and space needs, and Public Works on all of the infrastructure that the county owns, the roads, the sewer systems, the water systems. I think Rick would be able to speak to either of those.
Those need to be separate things, not,
They are separate, they're very different sets of facilities and very, very different maintenance and ongoing needs for each.
And the fund that it's coming out of?
For this particular item, it's coming out of the operations of the Central Services, the M&O fund. So it's
60/40
that,
or
yep,
something?
yep, indirect costs.
okay. Anything else you wanted to add there?
I have nothing else to add.
Okay. Sounds like we're good to go. Thank you. All right, next up is a Commissioner's Office item, setting a public hearing on an ordinance to amend Thurston County Code, Chapter 27010.
Go ahead, Rob.
The commissioners will recall when we reviewed this item last week, this was going to be one of many hearings potentially scheduled for the 21st of November. Worked with Jamie, our clerk of the board, to say, okay, is there an adequate amount of time to notice this hearing for November 7th so we can maybe provide a little relief on the 21st? And we do, if the board approves this today, to be able to move this forward for a hearing on November 7th. But just to refresh all of our memories, this is really in response to the expansion of the Board of County Commissioners from 3 to 5, which triggers the need to amend the ordinance that governs the structure of the Board of Health, so that we have an equal number of electeds as well as we have equal number of community members. So this basically reflects that transition from 3 to 5 for the Board of County Commissioners, and adds the flexibility of additional community members to basically have one or more in the 3 required categories that are prescribed by the state RCW.
Did we ever get the tribal issue solved on this membership?
Nope.
issue?
We are still working on it, right? We
More to
still
come,
have
okay.
a tribal seat. And as we've learned, it's been a little bit of a roadblock working with the state agency. And so I think we're coming up with a strategy potentially to help facilitate that representation on a local level instead.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mejia, any questions about this one?
No, sir. Thank you, Commissioner Edwards, for that question. Yeah, I wonder, is this something that, we need to talk to our legislators about, since I feel like we're not meeting the intent, right? If we're not able to get that appointment, but it's from a state aid, we're waiting for that appointment from a state agency. And so I don't know, Rob, if that's part of the strategy.
I think it would definitely be a good item to raise. With the state, I did meet with Jamie Bodden on Monday from Wasalfo. So we're not the only jurisdiction that is experiencing the same difficulty in terms of this appointment process. And so it is something that needs to be reconciled within RCW, but I think provided they don't really have any angst with it, that we could be more proactive on a local level. And I think that's probably the path forward.
Thank you.
More to come.
Okay, item 6 is CPED, amend Thurston County Code, Chapter 2.04, Planning Commission.
This item is something you reviewed in a briefing about 2 weeks ago. It expands the Planning Commission to 10, 2 in each commissioner's district, each with 4-year terms, and all current terms will end on 12/31, so the new 4-year terms can begin in the staggered in fashion, as you've seen. In each district, there would be one from the district, and then each commissioner could choose one at large. And as we discussed last week, you could start your appointments at any time, but this changes the structure of the planning commission. Jeremy is here if you have any questions. Not Jeremy, Josh.
He's on jury duty.
I
and so we have,
said Jeremy and I'm looking right at Josh.
we have Josh and Ashley here too.
Right,
Okay.
thank you,
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
County Manager. I think that Robin hit it right on. I'd also say that the board has done a lot of work in putting this together, and we have had multiple legal reviews from our prosecuting attorney's office. Jeremy is not available, so it'll either be myself or Ashley pinch hitting at the podium this afternoon. But recognizing that this is the culmination of the Board of County Commissioners honoring that expansion of the board and ensuring that your planning commission also follows that expansion in a way that makes sense and is reasonable and serves the community. So thank you for your hard work on getting it to this point, and we look forward to next steps.
Could you elaborate just a little bit on the staggered expiration of points? I didn't get that exactly.
So I'm gonna do my best to channel Jeremy, who's been the real lead on this, but essentially each one of them is staggered so that when one is done, we have a continuation of service, so people know what the topics are. So the 4-year terms will start at January 1st of 2024. And then from there on, they'll be staggered depending upon the seat. And I look to Assistant County Manager Gelder and also Ashley to add anything more clarity if possible.
But if they're 4-year terms, I'm just trying to figure out, they seem like they run out all at the same time if they're appointed.
No,
They will
that's
not.
what the staggering is all about.
I think I get a 2 and a 3.
So there, the attachment B to the ordinance actually outlines the proposal for the staggered appointments by district, and we've identified the 2 positions as A and B for each district, all with term starts of January 1st of 2024, and then it will alternate between 3, 2, 4, and 1-year terms to make sure that no one commissioner district, potentially has to reappoint 2 individuals simultaneously, and that we have the continuity of the majority of the membership at any one time.
Do you have attachment B, Commissioner?
Do you have it handy?
As well,
I didn't see it.
the
Just
terms
so we
are
can
4-year.
say what our terms are.
So for Commissioner District 1, the terms would be staggered. The first position A would be 3 years, position B 2 years. District 2, position A would be 4 years, position B would be 1 year.
So you get to put someone in a 4-year term and somebody in a 1-year term.
Well, it's 1 year of service and a 4-year term. So all the terms are always 4 years. That's why we say the 4-year term. But they won't all be serving that entire term. That's what creates the staggering.
There's no restriction from you reappointing.
Correct. So the first, for a 1-year term, right, they would just serve, they'd be appointed to begin in January, the term would end the December. The reappointment or a new appointment next year would then be for a new 4-year term.
But this first stage,
Just like the commissioners.
Just like.
Right,
Mhm.
just like, yes.
What is District 3, just to remind me?
District 3, position A would be 3 years, position B would be 2 years.
Okay, that's fine.
And for 4 and 5 would be 4, 1, which is similar to District 2, and then 3, 2, which would be the same as District 1.
would it be helpful for me to have that attachment B this afternoon in case that question comes up again?
I think so.
Would the commissioners
I
like
guess
that?
it wouldn't hurt to have it, just so we know.
Okay. Because sometimes, it's helpful to have this conversation, but then also at the 2 p.m. to add that for the record of transparency.
Yeah, and that way the public knows,
Mhm.
what we're doing.
Okay,
Thank
we'll
you.
be prepared with that.
Commissioner Mejia, any questions? Okay, good to go on item,
Thank you.
6A. 6B is setting a public hearing for Lacey Joint Plan update. Leah
Thank
Davis.
you. Yep, so yesterday you had a briefing on the Lacey Joint Plan, and that plan, as you reviewed it, is going out for public comment. This action sets a public hearing on November 7th, and we heard a lot about it yesterday, but Leah's here to answer any questions you have today.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead,
Just,
Take it over.
course, sorry. Go ahead, I'll finish it off.
Okay, any questions about what we just covered this yesterday.
I
but
covered all my
I
questions.
believe that the approach was to just set a public hearing and see how we can figure it out after that. Cause I can say, I have not figured this one out, so I'll be listening
We
carefully to
have
the
a,
public hearing.
we have a tentative board briefing the next day after the public hearing, so we should be able to answer more questions at that time.
Thank you.
Questions for Leah today? All right,
Right,
good to go.
thank you, Leah.
We'll set the public hearing. Item 7 is Public Health and Social Services, and 7A is Department of Ecology Local Solid Waste Financial Agreement.
So this item is the acceptance of a $75,000 grant from the Department of Ecology, which will be used to update the hazardous waste management plan. And it's a $100,000 project, which the county will match. The 75,000 grant will be a 25,000 match, which will be paid from tipping fees. And the contract is from July 1 of this year through June 30th of 2025. It's running on the state biennium.
Renee, are you here to answer any questions if the board has any? Okay.
I sure am. Good morning, commissioners, and good morning, county manager. This is Renee Zeberg from Solid and Hazardous Waste. This is an update to our hazardous waste plan that's been needing a review since 2014. So we're requesting the acceptance of this. Any questions?
Commissioner Edwards?
What, could you tell us just a little bit more about what this accomplishes? When we're gonna spend this money, 75 from the state and 25 from our tipping fees, I believe.
Yes, sir, I can. We are under guidance of a hazardous waste plan. We have to have a hazardous waste plan here at the county. And like I said, it has not been updated since 2014. So we really need to go out and contract with someone to have this plan updated. So that's what these funds would be used for a contractor to update our plan.
It's great that they got a grant to do it.
Yeah, and the SWAC they think this is a good deal, right?
Yes, sir.
That's all I need to know, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think I have anything. I mean, I guess it's just to confirm that this wording is the way we want it worded, to say that does the interlocal agreement, because the interlocal agreement covers the entire $100,000.
The interlocal agreement is to accept the $75,000 grant. The $100,000 is the contract to update the plan.
It reads that the interlocal agreement is to provide financial assistance in the amount of $100,000, and that doesn't sound like what you described. We're getting financial assistance in the amount of $75,000. So I would either say financial assistance in the amount of 75, or I would change the wording to provide financial assistance and say to finance an update to the plan in the project amount of 100. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
One way or
with
the
you.
other, it's
That's-
not quite
Because
accurate.
it didn't quite read right, yeah, okay.
Okay. So Renee, is the intent of this motion to do both accept the grant and authorize the contract for the plan?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's what I thought. All right, we'll work on this language and
Okay,
Clean
one
it
more
up.
follow-up on that. If we're authorizing the plan, did we already do an RFP with some outfit to do this?
We have not. No,
so
we have not contracted with the service yet.
right. So we'd need to go out for an RFP. We'll work on this action and figure out whatever. it
Honestly,
needs
to me, the
be. Should
simplest-
be two actions.
Simplest fix is just to change 100,000 to 75.
Right, and then have them come for an approval to go out for an RFP or make two actions. That's what this really ought to be.
We'll take care of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, 7B.
Thanks for sitting in, Renee.
7B is also Public Health and Social Services, setting a public hearing to amend the home ARP allocation plan.
Right, and again, Keely is out today, so I'm not sure who will cover it this afternoon. But this item is to set a public hearing for the home ARP allocation plan. The county's received $3 million from the home ARP formula grant. And this is an item that is captured within the umbrella ARPA bill, the federal bill. This is a formula grant that can be used for housing, services, and shelter. The original plan was passed in March of this year after a public hearing. The staff are currently proposing amending the plan. The amendment would reduce the services and instead put 95% of the plan toward development of affordable rental housing. The plan requires a 30-day review, and this sets the public hearing on November 21st. We'll see if we can answer any questions without someone from Public Health and Social Services here.
Commissioner Edwards?
Home ARP, what's,
Yeah, that's the American Recovery Plan. And it is yet another acronym for ARPA.
It's like a different strand of funding though, correct?
Well, ARPA, if you remember, it's a big umbrella bill with many, many things. Oh, we have Tom. Thanks for joining us today, Tom. But this is part of the ARPA bill, the federal legislation.
Tom, we're on item 7B, which is about the public hearing for home ARP allocation plan.
Yep, can you hear me?
Yep,
Yeah.
we can.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Robin did a very good job. So yeah, we originally had within our plan, we're just going to split the funding between providing for services and rental housing. We're going to do those services because we thought there was going to be a substantial funding gap with the reduction of document recording fees. The state has since backfilled that funding gap. Also, the home ARP rules come with would require our service providers to make some changes to coordinated entry, which would be relatively burdensome. So for a modest amount of money, didn't think those changes were necessary, especially because we had the backfill funding. So we're looking to redirect all those funds to the development of additional rental housing. Within the HUD rules, this is a substantial amendment, and HUD requires us to have a public hearing to be transparent about the change in the intent of those funds.
I'm glad Tom was here, but I don't get it completely, but I think you've got it under control, Tom.
$3 billion in federal money and 95% of it will be used to develop affordable rental housing.
I think you meant million rather than
Million.
million.
Did I not say million? Is that wishful?
It was wishful thinking that come out.
Yeah,
Commissioner Mejia, any questions?
No, sir.
still wouldn't be enough.
Okay, just out of curiosity, changes suggested in coordinated entry, not to make it better, but just to make it more burdensome to deal with or different? I mean, I'm curious about that. What were they asking us to do?
Yeah, so the home ARP, there's 4 populations that need to be served. So including those who are experiencing homelessness, but also at risk of homelessness and those fleeing. And so it would require us to change the prioritization within coordinated entry and include those who are at risk of homelessness, because these funds need to be eligible to serve all of those populations. So it would require our coordinated entry system to either circumvent coordinated entry or to incorporate those who are at risk of homelessness or fleeing domestic violence to have access to these funds. So it gets a little into the weeds, but the population that these funds serve is a little broader than what our coordinated entry system currently serves, and so we need to make some adjustments to incorporate those additional populations.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Do we want to bring Tom in to discuss homeless strategies so that we cover that rather than having to kick it out 2 weeks?
Why would we, from
the item 1 on the
item we
agenda?
skipped this morning? Tom, would you be prepared to do the homeless strategy update?
I might be able to wing it a little bit. I didn't have a chance to talk to Keely this morning to know exactly, but I can provide some basic updates.
We were going to kick it 2 weeks, but I didn't know if that was necessary. If you'd rather do it in 2 weeks with Keely, that's fine too.
Yeah, I think that would be best. There's nothing urgent or pressing that I'm aware of in terms of updates that you would not be aware of already.
Okay, well, we'll just keep it to what we had decided before. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Next up is Public Works, and it's item 8A, setting a public hearing. Man, we're setting a lot of public hearings.
Yeah. Yes, we are.
To consider revising the speed limit schedule. This is obviously one of the most important ones. So
Absolutely.
Becky Kahn is here to walk us through this one.
So you had a work session on September 20th regarding changes to the Thurston County speed limit schedule. These changes include adjusting the speed limit on 8 county roads and removing 57 roads or section of roads from the plan that the county no longer owns. This sets a public hearing for November 21st. Letters have been sent to the property owners that live on the roads where the speed limit will change. And so far, the comments that we've received are generally in favor of the changes. Becky can tell us if anything has changed about that.
No, nothing has changed.
Any questions about the public hearing on speed limits?
No,
Good to
sounds
go, Becky.
good, thank you.
Last item, substantive item is 8B, approving cooperative service agreement with Department of Agriculture, U.S. Department of Agriculture, Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, Wildlife Services. Mike Lohman from Public Works, Road Operations Manager.
So this is an agreement with the USDA for services that would protect county assets, such as culverts, from nuisance wildlife, including beavers, nutria, and potentially other species. We would contract for these services to be provided as needed. And this would be in addition to other contracts we have for this purpose, if I understand that. And then Mike can answer any questions that you may have.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yeah, this would replace our current contracts that we are pursuing with other contractors. So just a minor change there, but I'm happy to answer any specific questions that you have.
Mike, nutria, aren't they an invasive species?
Yeah, they're little animals.
Yes, I believe they are.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So who is it that makes a determination that there's an animal that's a nuisance? Is it county staff that makes that determination and then they call this outfit to come help with removal, or is somebody else assessing that?
Yeah, so this would be a addition to our, we call it our beaver management program. When we become aware that a beaver nutria is impacting another asset, we go out and make our assessment. If work is needed, we would incorporate this contract as one of those tools in our toolbox to deal with that nuisance animal. I think this contract will free up approximately 400 staff hours, labor hours, which is a huge benefit with our staffing challenges that we're having right now.
I hope your staff has had some of the trainings that I've had about all the positive impacts beavers can provide. I know sometimes it gets to be where it's compromising, infrastructure, but they provide more benefit than some folks realize, I guess is what I would say.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, that's it. Thanks, Mike. That's it for the agenda for this afternoon after our standing items. So back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir, for covering that for me. Okay, next is the review of the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for our meeting of October 24th. That meeting is canceled due to budget deliberations, so we will not be holding a meeting on October 24th. Our next meeting will be October 31st.
Yeah,
October.
Halloween.
So October 31st will be our next meeting if you would like to join us then.
And staff has set the theme as Western.
Isn't it Halloween?
It is.
So it's a Western
A
Halloween
Western
theme?
Halloween theme.
That's interesting.
Okay, so moving on to proclamations and awards and advisory boards and commissions. Jamie?
Good morning, Jamie Caldwell, clerk of the board. Outside of what was already discussed for the proclamations and awards, I have no updates. Included in your packet for review are the standing applications for the Agricultural Advisory Committee, the Racial Equity Council, and the Timberland Regional Library Board of Trustees. Outside of any questions, that's all I have.
No questions from me.
I guess I'm still supporting the movement of Ms. Harrington as president-elect of the board and the timing issue with all the different counties that have to be involved. So I guess I know, Madam Chair, you wanted some time to look further into it.
Yeah, I apologize, and that has been on me. I just haven't had the time to give her a call back. But I'm hoping, oh shoot, next week is I guess I would recommend to add her onto the October 31st agenda, if that's okay with commissioners, and that will give me some time to reach out. And if by that point there's actually some things that maybe then we'll have a deeper discussion at that time if there's some things that I have concerns about and
Okay.
can be removed from the consent agenda. Commissioners can decide at that time how they would like to proceed. Does that sound work?
Yep.
Okay. PIO check-in.
Good morning, commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. We've updated the countywide style guide and sent that out to the departments and offices. The departments are required to use what's in the style guide. The offices, we just recommend that they use what's in the style guide. And then I confirmed this morning with Capital City Trust that the mailer on the public safety tax is going to be mailed out to all households today. Any questions? That's what I have.
Questions, Commissioner Menser?
Is the style guide related to the website?
No, it has the font color, fonts, logos, the colors that we use. Yes, in the sense that we sent that to the developers when they were creating the website. So it is the same. We just updated what was in there and sent it out for everyone to use when we're creating mailers or flyers or those types of things. That's what they need to use for the fonts and colors.
So say if public health was creating some kind of informational pamphlet, then it gives them guidance on how it should look.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any additional questions?
No.
No? Okay. Legislative check-in.
Right on. I have typed up a draft of the legislative priorities for those. These are what we talked about last week. You're welcome. Taking information from the last year's agenda, the meeting you had in June with Deborah Magia, and other items that we've been discussing. So this is the long list. Deborah will be here on October 31st to discuss the list with you. And at that time, we'll need to whittle it down to those few items that we really want to focus on.
So we usually do three to four
Yep.
main items, and then we do a little list of things that we're in support of.
Right.
How many do we need for those?
So last year, we had about, I think there were 8 items total.
Okay.
So we'll want to work on selecting which ones these are. Like I said, Deborah will be here on October 31st. And then also just a reminder, we've scheduled the legislative breakfast with our state delegation on December 5th at 7 a.m. That's early on a Tuesday morning.
Any questions?
No.
So if you see anything missing, please let me know. Otherwise,
Can you repeat the date that I need to
that is,
discuss whittling this down?
we're gonna discuss these with Deborah on Halloween,
Halloween.
October 31st.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There's nothing under briefing public hearing decisions pending. Next is commissioners' items. The first item is the Chehalis interlocal agreement.
Commissioners had updated handouts in front of you. I know, well, Jamie took care of them.
In the packet, yeah.
And so it's a little bit different, the timeline's a little bit different than what was in the packet. And you have a colorized version of the.
So the colorized version is the updated version?
Yep. Which tells a different story.
So you want me to take this from top?
Yep.
When you say colorized, is that this map?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Matt Usman, Thurston County Engineer. Becky Kahn, our County Traffic Engineer. We briefly discussed this topic last week. This topic is the County Road Transfer Agreement. Today we're going to talk, I'm not going to take too much time today, but we're going to quickly talk about the schedule, provide an update on the progress we've made to date, provide some additional background information. But let's start with the schedule. So the public hearing is planned to be scheduled for November 28th. We'll be formally requesting permission from the Board of County Commissioners to set that public hearing at the meeting on October 31st. This will provide much more notice than the minimum 10 days that we discussed last week. What is it, Becky, like 20, the maximum we can advertise is 25 days, and I think we're close to that. We're gonna advertise in both the Olympian and the Chronicle newspapers because this is in South County. Per RCW, we're required to put out a news release regarding this. And then of course, as we do with every project, we'll put the giant yellow public notice signs on each road that's being proposed for the transfer as well. Some updates on the progress we've made since last week. The draft contract has been reviewed by Public Works and the Prosecuting Attorney's Office and has been sent to the Chehalis tribe for their review. The right-of-way exhibit maps have been prepared and are being reviewed by the county surveyor for approval, as well as the legal descriptions. So we pretty much have everything ready to go. The last remaining thing, and it's a very important thing, is we need to get the deeds prepared. But our real estate services staff will have those done by the time we request a notice of the public hearing. Some additional information regarding the proposed roads transfer. Attached behind the schedule, you'll see an exhibit map. You'll see that there's 5 portions of roadway identified. Anderson Road, south of US 12, 195th Avenue, east of Anderson Road, 188th between Anderson and Moon Road, and Moon Road south of US 12, and 183rd west of Moon Road. You'll also see on there the dashed green line that represents the boundary of the reservation. As you know, if this agreement is executed, the Board of County Commissioners and between the Board of County Commissioners and the Chehalis tribe, the jurisdictional ownership and maintenance of these roads would be transferred to the Chehalis tribe. Public Works has worked with the Prosecuting Attorney's Office to develop the agreement for this transfer. The agreement states that the right-of-way transferred can only be used for transportation purposes, and that the roads must be maintained in their current condition or better, or they will revert back to Thurston County. This is significant because while most of the properties that use these roads are tribally owned there are several private properties that have ingress and egress from these roads. Though it's clear, working with the tribe on this agreement, it's clear that their intention is to continue to maintain the roadways in their current condition or better, and to ensure that access to their properties as well as the public properties are kept intact. That, be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Commissioner Edwards, go ahead.
And which court is the arbitrator of this, agreement?
Which court?
Yeah, would it be our Superior Court?
I believe it would
Tribal
be,
Court, but it needs to be designated. I know that was one of the big holdups, some years ago when we worked on this.
I'd be guessing if I answered that question right now, so that would be something I'll need to follow up with you on. I would assume it'd be the Washington State.
Pardon?
I assume it would be Washington State.
But that wasn't the case before, so I just wonder if it needs to be clarified.
I can't remember the answer. There is, yeah, it's right in the agreement, and I'm forgetting how they resolved. Somehow they did, it was the sticking point, it was a sticking point before, and somehow they got it resolved, and I don't remember though where it landed, so we need to check the
But I
draft
think,
contract.
especially for the hearing, the public is gonna wanna know that, I believe.
I'll have that for you.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
No, I don't have any questions.
Thank you for the updated timeline. Appreciate that.
I guess I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. I guess the part that I missed is that per this timeline, we should have an executed agreement, hopefully December 12th of this year.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next is calendar for 2023, now through December.
Right, we just thought it would be a good idea, if everyone were aware that we are getting really close to the end of the year. So this calendar shows that there are not a lot of days left that are available for board meetings. And really after today, there are only 5 meetings left this year. On October 31st, November 7th, November 21st and 28th, and December 12th. So you see a lot of things getting jammed onto those days. You see the public hearings starting to stack up a little bit. That is because people are trying to get things done by the end of the year. The second page includes a list of things that we're trying to ensure happen before your winter break. So this short list includes getting ready for 5 county commissioners, expansion of the Board of Health, adopting the bargaining agreements, adopting the budget, adopting the comprehensive plan docket items. Those are those joint plans with our cities and the POG item and the items, yep. All of that's the zoning change. So those are all that one time, you can only do it once a year, items on the comprehensive plan docket. We're about to wrap up the wireless code and the shoreline master plan. We feel very close. Then you need to set your legislative agenda and also take steps toward the recruitment of the new county manager. So when we look at the days left, there are not a lot of them. And when we look at the calendar, we find that there are very few days that are open for additional work sessions. So we've let offices and departments know that the time is short. We're ensuring that things get on your agenda specifically for those things that we're trying to get across the finish line. If there's anything that you want to see us attempt to finish by the end of this year, that need to be added to this list, please let either Rob or I know about it. And then there may be times, like with the bargaining agreements, that we'll walk something onto the calendar. We'll give you as much notice as we can and as much information before we do that, but there's only like 10 weeks left.
Any
Uh,
questions? Go
yeah.
ahead, sir.
There's several items on here that I'm wondering about how close we are maybe, or if we're able to do it, because there'll be outside influences. One of those is adopt a bargaining agreement. I mean, we don't know how that's gonna come. Do we know something's coming?
So we have a briefing. Cameron will be here on Thursday morning at 10:30 to tell you how that's going. But
Okay.
we're, at this point in time, very optimistic that we'll be able to accomplish this.
On the prepare for 5 commissioners, what does that entail?
So we're updating the operating guidelines and talk about that in the planning session. You've been working toward any changes to advisory boards and committees that you make appointments to. We're reviewing all the county codes to see if anything needs to change by the end of this year associated with that. It's just
Is this where we'll-
housekeeping and getting ready for the 5.
Is that where we'll discuss Rob's proposal for the scheduling?
Right,
next
you'll
year?
have a few different options for how to redesign the schedule. We'll do that at the planning session.
When you say redefine the schedule, and what's that mean?
So there are different proposals for how you want to have your schedule flow for the week, like right now. Most of the weeks, not right now because your schedules are jammed, but on most weeks you have Mondays and Fridays reserved for constituent work. On Tuesdays, we have agenda setting in the morning, board meetings in the afternoon. And then Wednesdays for briefings. Thursday mornings, you usually have a commissioner check-in. And then most Thursday afternoons are for briefings, but some are reserved for constituent work. And we'll bring options if you'd like to consider changing that schedule.
Have we got proposals on the table about changing that?
Rob's written a proposal up. I have a draft that we'll
Okay.
give you ahead of the planning session on November 29th.
And how about the expansion of the Board of Health? I mean, don't we maybe have it figured out?
Pretty
don't
close
we?
to that, yep.
We're gonna have interviews at the December meeting and hopefully,
And
but
then,
there's a subcommittee that has to meet and
Yeah.
vet the candidates and
And did confirm, right, that those interviews would occur on the 12th, but the Board of County Commissioners still, per RCW, has to make the appointment. So we may need to,
We decided to add that to the 15th,
squeeze that on the.
Right,
schedule.
we can do that,
that action on the 15th.
all right.
and the comprehensive plan, docket items, adopt wireless code, shoreline master plan. Those are all kind of one thing we're gonna do on one day, right?
We're gonna try to knock them all out on the same day, but you might see like the wireless code might come a little earlier because we think we're
Think you
pretty
about
much
it.
done with that, yep.
And the legislative agenda is kind of what you've just
Yep, you just
pointed
had
out.
the draft and Deborah McGee will be here on the 31st.
And then the recruit a new county manager, is that just the process? I mean, we don't have a deadline there, do we?
You don't have a deadline, however, I have sent out to you Maria's draft of the recruitment announcement for any comments or edits you'd like to make. I think I asked to have that back by October 20th, I think, is the date I asked you to return that to me. And then Maria has suggested posting that by the end of this month and seeing how many applicants we get by the end of November.
Prior to going to a headhunter.
Yep, before we contract with the headhunter.
Okay, thank you. That kind of clarified it for me.
Great. So these are the items we're focused on moving. If there are any others, please let us know.
Let's do it. Good list.
Thanks. I recommend for next year to start working on the legislative agenda, like
Much
in the
earlier.
summer. I know usually when there's a longer session, it's kind of harder, but working on this like towards the end of the year when we are trying to squeeze so many things in already is really hard. And I think all of us already have an ongoing list anyways. And I feel like if there is an item that we want to add later on to legislate, it will be easier to add an item on than just try to create it from scratch when we're just so tight on time. So
I agree.
just my recommendation for next year.
You had a meeting in June, so there was a start to get it going earlier in the year, but it fell off the radar with a few of the other things that were going on.
And also another caveat there that often the work that WASAC is doing for the Legislative Steering Committee in establishing agenda happens in May. So if there's a possibility of post-session kind of wrapping up and knowing what did or didn't happen, at least having 2 or 3 bullet points to be able to bring to that conversation might be good too.
That's what you did in June this year. Questions? Nope, okay. All right, so,
Jeez.
I know we're just working right through it.
Let's go take a break and then we'll come into our executive session. We'll take a 15-minute break.
We are back from break. It is 10:51 a.m. and we are heading straight into executive session for RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1A double I to consider if in compliance with any required data security breach disclosure under RCW 19.255.010 and 42.56.590 and with legal counsel available, information regarding the infrastructure and security of computer and telecommunications risks, telecommunications network security and service recovery plans, security risk assessments, and security test results to the extent that they identify specific system vulnerabilities and other information that if made public may increase the risk to the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of agency security or to inform technology infrastructure or assets. CISA audit, and this will take approximately 30 minutes. We were in executive session to consider if in compliance with any required data security breach disclosure under RCW 19.255.010 and 42.56.590, and with legal counsel available, information regarding the infrastructure and security of computer and telecommunication networks, security and service recovery plans, security risk assessments, and security test results to the extent that they identify specific system vulnerabilities and other information that, if made public, may increase the risk of the confidentiality, integrity, or available of agency security or to information technology infrastructure or assets. The CISA audit.
No action.
And no action follows. Okay. Next on our agenda is other commissioner items. Does anyone have any commissioner items they would like to bring up? Not everyone at once.
I guess I have a question for my seatmates. I don't know. So gosh, I'd have to pull out my notes. My memory's so bad, but I did have a follow-up meeting with the folks who want the quiet zone at Patterson Lake, and I think they said they'd met with Commissioner Mejia. I'm not sure about Commissioner Edwards,
They've
but
got a request in.
you're gonna meet with them?
I guess so. I mean, I know
Yeah.
there's something there.
Well, they had some follow-up information, kind of following up on what we kind of hit a roadblock with it the first time around, liability question and it's blah, blah, blah. So I guess I was just curious and I didn't know if both of you had met with them, if you were persuaded by the information about moving forward, the diagnostic review, which is what they were asking us to do. And so I just kind of wanted to
I still
address
had,
that.
yeah, I still had questions in terms of the liability. They said that Whatcom and Skagit County were able to do it through a policy. I've reached out to both of, I reached out to a commissioner from Skagit and a council member from Whatcom, as well as their executive, and I've heard radio silence from both of them. And
Silence, you say?
like silence,
Yeah.
like not even received.
We don't want them to even talk about it.
And I was asking about, like, okay, if you were able to do this, how were you able to get through the liability process? Was there a policy that you did, could you please, I was like happy to set up a meeting and it's just been radio silence. So again, for me, Matt has, I think, reached out again and he's come back with the same answers in terms of the liability and the insurance aspect of it. I was hoping that if, we heard something from Whatcom or Skagit where they were like, oh, this is kind of how we were able to do it, that maybe then we could proceed, but I haven't heard anything from them. And so I'm giving them until the end of the week to kind of follow up again, but
Rob, were you on board when we had our initial flush of discussing this?
I was here for the original discussion several months back.
Yeah. Okay. And I can't remember if you had any, I mean, there was a variety of opinions, but the one issue that kind of we were all interested in and seemed to be gumming up the works in terms of pursuing anything further was this notion that we'd have some additional uncovered liability if we followed the federal guidelines. And you'll hear from my tone of voice that I'm incredulous that this is, I want to get an answer and I haven't seen the definitive answer to make me be able to lay it to rest, but I am extremely incredulous that there isn't an answer to a situation where there's a federal program, there are safety ratings, we put these things in place that are deemed to be legally more safe than the blowing of a horn. And yet we're being told that, well, if you do that, and there's some kind of accident, then it won't be covered by anyone and we'll be on the hook for all this bazillions of dollars. That that just doesn't make any sense to me, especially when there's other jurisdictions that are doing it and somehow they thought it was, their lawyers didn't stop them and tell them, what, you're crazy, why are you doing this? So I just can't believe there isn't a definitive answer on this, and I'm guessing it's an answer that's gonna be favorable to the residents who are asking us to do this. I don't know that for sure, but it's been very frustrating to just not have kind of to just kind of go, well, we don't really know, so
Well, I've
We're not-
reached
we're not
out
gonna
to
help
the
you.
jurisdictions, and usually what that means to me when there's radio silence, right? Because if I get a request like that from
they
another,
don't wanna put it in writing that
Yeah,
they
I-
tried to fudge something.
because I mean, that's usually what happens. I, send it to my public works director, and then I'm getting a call from Jennifer being like, just a heads up, like there's this and this and this issue, and so that's why I was like, I'm giving them until the end of the week. I met with them and I was like, I'll look into it. But for me, that's a big issue, and if we're not getting like Tammy came in here and she gave us that information. She had talked to the risk pool, and I know Matt's reached out back again, and I've talked to him, and I know he's reached out to different people around the state, as well as I'm not sure what the acronym is, the I don't know,
Seems weird the federal government would set up a program that can't be used by jurisdictions because
Because
Of liability concerns.
because of insurance liability. It just doesn't seem like that's how things would work.
I have some other concerns about it besides liability myself.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying, that we all had a different point of view, but that piece, just seemed like it stopped us dead in our tracks.
So I don't recall the briefing, was it possibly in July?
I don't.
I want to say it was further back than that,
I think so.
Okay,
the one where we talked about it for the
all
first
right.
time.
I'm actually
So
meeting
this
with him
wasn't
on
my
Thursday.
radar, but I can,
Okay. Well, maybe we can pick it up next week when you've had a chance to hear them out. See if anybody's got a different thought.
Some of my concerns besides the liability are though that, I mean, I'm taking Tammy at her word that it's a problem, and Matt at his word that it's a problem. From a liability perspective, now how that works out, I really don't know. But the cost issue is an issue that I'm concerned about. And if we do it for one, and I think there's 11 other crossings in the county, okay, so they would like to have the same benefit if we do it. So how do we do it for all and be fair? We're having a heck of a time with our budget right now. How could we possibly take on another issue that equates to financial gain for a subsection of our citizens? Because that's what it boils down to. It's a big financial impact when they go to sell a house, or if you go to buy a house. If there's this issue, anytime you have a issue, it's detrimental to your cost factor or your purchasing price. So it's way more than just the liability. It's fairness for all.
Yeah.
If we could do it for all, I don't have any problem.
I'm pretty sure that, and that's what Ramiro's concern was, but I think that when you actually look on the ground at those 11 crossings, you can see that based on the traffic that goes through and the cost of what would be necessary to meet the security rating to get the trade, and the number of homes in the vicinity and the number of crossings, you could very easily set up a program with parameters, and the only one that's gonna qualify is this one, because this is clearly the most
Egregious.
and the most, so I think you could say, I think you could set up a program that says, if there's X number of crossings per day, and there's X number of homes in the vicinity, and there's this little of traffic, take those three parameters, that could be the objective criteria, then the county, and it's not gonna require, and as we remember, like, there's some of the things we can do that are pretty cheap to do, and then there's some other stuff that's really expensive. So the county could just say, we're not doing the really, really expensive stuff. But if those three things could be remedied by one of the cheaper remedial options, then the county will move forward. And if you apply those criteria, the only one you're gonna get is Pattison. And it's gonna be fair and programmatic, and it's gonna solve a problem, and, you know, so that's kind of how I think about it.
Would we be able to create, and this would be a legal question, I guess, I don't know if there's something in the legislature that allows for it, but they have limited improvement districts for certain areas, or public utilities districts, different things like that. Would they have a train noise district, like a TND or something, that those people would create and pay for everything that they're asking for, and any ongoing maintenance that would be required? Because otherwise, I think we'd be in a situation where we're gifting of public funds for a specific benefit that is not a benefit to everyone else in the county.
Even with county road improvement districts, usually what happens is the assessment is made, the improvements are completed, and then it still gets transferred to the county for long-term maintenance.
Yeah, for long-term.
And thus the liability still would rest with the county if there is.
Wait,
Matt.
Yeah, they didn't know. I thought maybe,
Robin, my
Robin,
my calendar shows a briefing on February 1st.
February 1st, that
Oh,
long
way
ago,
back.
And I
okay.
remembered it being.
No wonder I
quite a
don't
long time
remember
ago.
anything from it.
I thought this spring, but I don't know if that was the only one, but
Might have had two, did we?
yeah, we might have had two, but there's, oh, and here's, I've seen another one, April 26th.
Why are you guys in trouble now?
Oh,
You're
you-
this close.
You crossed at the wrong.
Nice try,
time.
guys, nice try.
Run away.
February 1st, April 26th.
Okay.
And the most recent one was April 26th was the
Right.
last one.
Sounds right.
Yeah, that's what Commissioner Nentz.
Back to quiet zones. Sorry, Matt.
So I think where we are right now is the direction from the board was we weren't doing programmatic quiet zones. We weren't able to have insurance coverage. And I think that was the last direction we got from the board.
But the citizen group is not taking no for an answer, and they're back. They've gotten now more legal opinions and more
Their
input
own
from
legal
state.
opinions?
No, they've talked to like someone from the Attorney General's office, and they've talked to these people and that people,
writing?
and they've come back and had meetings with each of the commissioners, and they're still pushing forward, asking for the diagnostic review. And I'm trying to explore, you know, that unresolved question about insurance liability, because I just don't honestly believe that.
Did they have something in writing?
They have a slide deck they'll give you. One of them is a kind of a quote from, I mean, it's a little murky, but it's a quote from, Attorney General that they talked to that deals with this stuff that says. It's not an official
I
like
mean-
legal opinion. It's very informal.
And I feel like even that quote says that there already is liability. There's just gonna be more liability, because the more improvements that you add to a crossing, the more maintenance is involved, so
The more
the
opportunities
more
for event.
opportunity. And so I kind of felt like that quote might have been taken out of context a little bit.
The big utility would like to be shed of any responsibility, so if we would take some of this on, they'd like it, I'm sure the railroad would like it.
Oh, was this was the train
Mhm.
whistles?
Yes.
I do remember this. Oh,
44
the
train
trains.
whistles per day.
Yeah.
And if you look at the map, it's like a mile and a half, like they've done decibel, I mean, they've done all this stuff. These folks are like, they're on
I don't
top.
blame them for
They,
moving
they're doing
forward.
like, they're doing audio decibel testing at like, at different intervals away, and they're showing that like even at, you know, 3/4 of a mile away, it's like 101 decibels or something.
I think it affects everybody on the lake, myself.
Yeah, and it shoots
Water
across the
down.
lake, yeah, even really, so I mean, they're just.
I think that when we talked about it from a programmatic approach, because as soon as we do one-offs, it becomes
Well, that's what I was
a
saying.
problem.
I think you could design a program that would have objective criteria, and I just laid them out before you got in here, that would basically, they'd be the only one to meet it. I mean, you'd say, because if you look at all the crossings, that one has the most train whistles, the least amount of traffic, which requires then the least upgrades to the intersection, based on whatever that criteria is. With the number, you know, if you said, okay, so only if you have 40 train whistles a day and 1,000 houses within a 3/4 mile radius, and the improvements have to fall into, there was like buckets of the expansiveness of the improvements, and, you know, we're only gonna do ones that where the situation could be remedied by the least cost improvement. I mean, you could set up some objective criteria, and I can promise you only Patterson Lake and Thurston County would fall into that.
But is that even legal to eliminate other lesser affected areas? But then they do have, you know, there's only 500 that are gonna hear it in this other area. Would that be fair? Especially if we're using public funds versus, you know, a TND, I guess is the best way I could put it.
I think we wouldn't set it up to be prescriptive, so it only fit for this group. I think we would look at it objectively and lay out the criteria if the board gave direction to develop the program and the cost associated with those improvements.
I would like to see that if they've got a legal opinion, not some
It's not an
attorney,
opinion.
well, then let's wait until they come in with an opinion from the Attorney General's office, not from a private attorney, but from the Attorney General's office, or maybe the prosecuting attorney here would give them an opinion, oh yeah, everything's hunky-dory.
I mean, if the board gives direction, we can set up the program.
Well, I don't want you
Tell what the
spending money
criteria
on it
would
if it
be,
doesn't look
right,
like
and what
it
the
can go
dollar amount
somewhere.
would be. I think we then look at whether we can be insured or not, because we would want to make sure that we can be. I think you potentially haven't heard from Whatcom is because I don't believe that they're insured. And I don't know that they know that.
And I don't wanna speak for Risk, but I think Risk would say that that's a deal killer if you can't, if Risk Pool can't ensure the improvements at the crossing. I mean, the risk is low, don't get me wrong, but if something were to happen,
Yeah.
it's big.
Yeah, I have to say, liability, is it fair to all? You know, who pays for the cost? I don't want the taxpayers to pay for it.
Commissioner Edwards is meeting with them later in the week.
I'm-
I say
I
we
think
defer
I'm
this
meeting this
for a
week with
week,
them.
because we've already had a second round of meetings, and I just want to hear, I want Commissioner Edwards to hear what I heard, and if he's not persuaded, that's fine, but I'm not gonna try to, it was a month or so ago, and I've dealt with about 16,000 things since then, so I'm not gonna try to recapitulate what I was told that sounded.
So we can put this on your follow-up for the 31st.
Sure.
It's next week's budget.
I mean, to me, it's not even,
It's
to
2 weeks
me,
out.
really,
Just,
I don't wanna spend, the way we're booked up, the material you just gave us for the rest of this year, trying to get these accomplishments done, I don't want this in the way of it.
Well, no, this does have to be done this year.
Yeah, we don't have to do that this
so.
year.
There's some
it would be a
diagnostic tests that
follow-up
they say that
discussion,
they-
Not have Public Works do any work at this point in time. Just a follow-up conversation to
Amongst
see where you wanna
ourselves,
go,
yeah.
yeah.
And we'll await direction. I think what I would say is that they all bought houses with the railroad being there. I live next to the tracks as well. I'm not there during the day. I actually like them, but I also don't live on a lake, so it's not echoing. But I mean, there's nothing that separates me from the tracks except a few feet, more than a few feet,
I
but it's
chatted
right
with
there.
someone who lives on the lake.
And,
as
and
well.
an intersection where they honk their horns, blow their whistles.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that so many folks can, you know, moved into the area, knew it was there, and on some level have romanticized the sound, right? They've incorporated it into their experience, and they know when it's happening. They just stop their outdoor conversations and pick back up again, because the duration isn't necessarily long. So I think it really,
I think COVID really changed people's perception, because everyone was at home. People are trying to work at home, people are trying to educate their kids at home, and all of a sudden they realize that this is like, and now people are, it's a permanent change. People are now working at home and trying to do stuff. Some of the people that were in the meeting with me were making that argument.
Sure. Well, I
not-
think, you know,
More burdensome than it was 2 years ago.
absolutely. I think we'll await direction from the board as to how you would like us to proceed and we can.
I guess one additional clarification question I would ask is if we do go that route, is it truly a safety program or is it a noise abatement program? Because that's gonna change
It would
the,
not be a safety program. I don't see how we could say it's a safety program.
and that's what I'm worried about too.
Is that a problem? What's a noise abatement program?
No, I'm just
I think
thinking
it
about
just-
how we would set up the criteria.
But
is
if
all.
somebody gets run over at the track because they're, I don't know, can't hear too good, or their earphones are on.
Isn't there a safe, I mean, it's been now 9 months, but wasn't there a specific set of like criteria, like safety rating things? Like if you do X, Y, and Z, you get these number of points and that's deemed to be by some
That's the
higher
railroad-
authority to
the
be
railroad says.
safer than blowing the horn? I mean, all you're doing is say, can't blow the horn. And if you can, it's like mitigation. We allow people to cut down, protected trees and destroy salmon habitat, but if they can go plant some trees somewhere else and basically say it's just as good, then we're all okay with that. So here we're saying, all we're saying is don't blow the horn, and then somebody's done, some experts like yourselves have done analysis of this and said, if you put in these candlesticks or whatever, I can't remember all the different things, but you can put in X number of things and the equivalent safety like trade-off is better. It's actually a net positive. It's better to have the candlesticks and not blowing the horn than blowing the horn and not the candlesticks, for example.
Right, but if we say it's safety and we focus on that, then why wouldn't we do that for every other railroad crossing and increase the safety for every railroad crossing? When really we're talking about safety, it's really more predicated on noise because we're also limiting the number of people. If we say, well, it's 4 if you only have less than 1,000 people or less than 500 people.
We're saying it's a
whatever.
wash. It's
But
just
what-
as safe.
But what,
Just
yes,
as
but
safe,
what
not
starts
safer,
it?
just as safe.
But what starts it? It's being
Yeah,
started
and
not for
to me, it's
safety, it's being
quality of
started for
life.
noise.
Are we gonna increase somebody's quality of life if there's 500 that hear it? But if there's 50 that hear it, we're not. So it'd be an equity issue.
This is just a discussion, right?
yeah.
So, right now, it's the railroad's responsibility to blow that horn, so the liability is on them. So if we take and put improvements on our roadway, we're in turn accepting some of the liability, cause we're now responsible for maintaining, use the correct term, by the way, I'm proud of you, candlesticks and the curbing. So that,
If the candlesticks fall down and we don't repair them, then that could be,
Sure.
now we've degraded the trade-offs.
It's like our
from the-
flashing beacons. We have a lawsuit going on right now because flashing beacons weren't working. Somebody walked out into an intersection and
Yep.
so.
We tried to make things better for everybody by putting a crosswalk in with flashing beacons. Then we quit maintenance, or we didn't have enough.
Well, no,
money,
we didn't quit
Or a
maintenance,
bulb
but-
burned out, or,
the intentions were in the right place, it's just,
Yeah.
unfortunately, stuff fails.
And we become liable. Those defense attorneys are always getting us on this.
They're in rare form right now, tell you that much.
Okay,
All right, we'll follow up in a few weeks.
I'll know more after this week.
I'll let commissioners know if I hear back from Skagit or Watcom, but it has been like, usually I get like an email saying like received, we'll get back to you, or they'll forward the email and they'll be like, this person will respond. But it's a radio silence, like not even a thank you received.
I used to do background checks quite a bit for different positions. And people have to be careful about what they say about past employees. You don't know what kind of a settlement. But the best question I found I could ask is, would you hire this person back tomorrow?
That's what we ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good discussion.
Okay, 11:43 and we are adjourned with the